The New Japan Cup for 2025 is almost upon us. It starts tomorrow at time of recording. And the New Japan Cup is often not something that fans get super excited about. It doesn't have the illustrious history of the G1 Climax or prompt for great action like you would expect from Best of the Super Juniors. But New Japan has been on such a hot streak with action wise, stories, characters, over the past couple months since Wrestle Kingdom at the beginning of the year that there is, at least in my mind, genuine excitement from this tournament. I feel like there's so many different potential ways that this tournament could go. There pretty much every match in this tournament, I look at it and I go, I think this person's going to win, but I'm not sure. There's really a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of room for unique booking decisions. There's just a lot that you could have fun with in this tournament. And I'm very hopeful that they will take this in some unique and interesting directions. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying I'm hoping it's exactly lined up with my bracket, although if it was, that'd be incredible. But I'm hoping for some uniqueness that we haven't necessarily seen from New Japan Cups in the past couple years. So what I'm going to be doing is going through the bracket as posted on NewJapan.com, giving my thoughts for who is going to advance all the way up to the finals where I share who I think the winner is. If the tournament is really, really good, I might make a tournamentality video on it, which if you hadn't seen that series, one, it is the worst named series in all of YouTube. But also, I go through different tournaments and rank them and compare them and just see what makes a great tournament. So if you guys are watching the New Japan Cup and you'd like to see that video, let me know down in the comments below. While you're there, if you'd like, if you'd like to subscribe, that's always appreciated. It does help a newer channel like mine to grow. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket for the 2025 New Japan Cup. So what you're seeing in front of you is the bracket as posted to NewJapan.com earlier this week. There's 8 first round matches and also 8 individuals who are getting buys into the second round, so they don't have to compete in the first round. So like, for example, up top here where you can see my cursor, Yota Tsuji and Evil are going to face each other on March 7th. David Finlay gets a bye, so on March 11th, he is going to be facing the winner of that match. That is how this tournament is laid out. And then after that, it's just standard bracketology going through it. So let's start with some of the first round matches. Yota Tsuji versus Evil. This is one of those cases where I say, okay, I feel confident I know who is going to be winning this, but there's always the chance. Evil's had some pretty crazy runs in tournaments before. He even won the New Japan Cup like 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. He won it not too long ago. So I think there is the possibility that he wins to be like a big dominant heel and maybe set up a championship match later with Yota Tsuji. But I am going to give it to Yota Tsuji here. He's the current IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion, and I feel like putting him in this tournament, you're gonna want to make him look strong, especially as he holds that championship. So I think he's going ahead. Next, also on 3-7, Yuya Uemura versus Sanada. This is one that is sort of up in the air for me, especially as the winner is facing Yoshihashi, who is a babyface. It would make sense for Sanada to be pushed through as a heel, but I'm going to give it to Yuya Uemura. I feel like he just returned from injury during the G1 Climax last year. He was getting a lot of positive accolade and also being booked very strongly, being put in some main event slots, being a relative newcomer. So I think they're going to get behind him, and I think they're going to push him and let him go on a little bit of a run in this tournament. So I'm pushing Yuya forward. Next, the guy whose name I can never pronounce, Ryohei Oiwa. I'll just call him Oiwa because I think that's how you say it. Versus Chase Owens. This is maybe the most nailed on one for me. I would hope Oiwa wins because Chase Owens is just such a non-factor in New Japan in 2025. I don't even really know why he's in this tournament, but yeah, Oiwa going on to face Zack Sabre Jr. Also on the 8th, Gabe Kidd versus Ren Narita. This is another one that I would be shocked if Ren Narita won. I think Gabe Kidd's been getting so much both positive accolade recently as well as being pushed by the company. He had an incredible match with Kenny, then a great match with Tomohiro Ishii, a match that a lot of people loved with Yota Tsuji. Very great stuff from Gabe Kidd this year. So I feel like he is going to go a long way in this tournament. So he's going to be facing Taichi in the next round. Jumping over to the next side of the bracket, I'm going to move my camera over this way so you guys can read that. Apologies if it's weird being on this side. El Phantasmo versus the Great-O-Khan. In terms of first round matches, this is the one I struggled with the most because El Phantasmo is the current TV champion, and having a championship around his waist just intrinsically makes me think they're going to push him further in the tournament than other people because they've strapped him up and want to make him look strong. But Great-O-Khan beat Shota Umino at the New Beginning in Osaka earlier this year, and I don't know if they're setting him up to potentially be a challenger to Hiroki Goto, or if they were just trying to get some like heat on him and make Shota Umino look a little bit better by like being like, look, he doesn't win all the time. He lost right here. So it's sort of up in the air. I don't know how far they're going to push the Great-O-Khan train. But unfortunately, I am going to give this win to the Great-O-Khan. Nothing against him. I'm just a huge ELP guy. I just think he's going to lose here. And I think that's going to serve two masters. One, it's going to set up a future match, Great-O-Khan versus El Phantasmo for the TV title. I also think it's going to give us a rematch of Great-O-Khan versus Shota Umino on the 12th in the second round for Shota to, spoiler, get his win back and move on in the tournament. Next, Naito versus Callum Newman. When I decided the winner for this, I couldn't tell if I was letting my my sort of hatred of Naito get in the way because I am pushing Newman on. I feel like it was a very bold, unique decision to put him in the G1 Climax last year. Even though he wasn't one of the standout stars, he did get the opening, or close to opening match each night. I feel like there's something they could do with him. They haven't really put the rocket straps to him like at all, but I feel like it's clear that New Japan is really looking to make some new stars. So I think Newman's going to go on. And let me tell you straight up, that's probably not going to happen. This is sort of the boldest prediction I have in the first round cuz Naito, he's been IWGP champion. I can't pronounce that. Who knows how many times. He's the current tag champ, so they'll definitely want to keep him strong. But he just sucks in 2025. He's no good. So maybe it's me going with my heart that I want Callum to win. But that's my bold prediction. So we'll have a United Empire versus United Empire match in the second round when he takes on Jeff Cobb. Next, Tomohiro Ishii versus Drilla Maloney. I don't know how bold of a prediction this is, but I'm pushing Drilla through. He beat Shingo Takagi at the New Beginning in Osaka. And it seems like they're really trying to set him up to be a player in the heavyweight division going into maybe the G1 Climax. So I do think that they'll give him the nod here. And they just, even though Ishii's been around in New Japan more as of recent, it doesn't seem like they're intent on really pushing him to do anything big. So Drilla's facing TJP in the next round. And then we have Boltin Oleg versus Bad Luck Fale. Bolton's going through. I'll be honest, I didn't really know Bad Luck Fale still wrestled in New Japan. I saw he had a tag match with Chase Owens earlier this year, but yeah, I didn't even know he was still around. So he's not going further. So Boltin Oleg's taking on Shingo Takagi. I do have a separate document. Move myself back over. Apologies. I do have another thing that we're going to look at in just a minute to get the the quarter and semifinals. But let's stick with this graphic for a little bit because we're getting Yota Tsuji versus David Finlay in the second round on the 11th. Now, I did some research before this. They've had 4 singles matches in their careers. Yota is currently 3-1 up on David Finlay. And I think Finlay's going to take some of that momentum back, and Finlay is going to move on to the quarterfinals. He is going to beat Yota Tsuji, the guy who beat him for the Global Heavyweight Championship at Wrestle Kingdom, and potentially set up another rematch a little bit later down the line, which I'd be very excited for because I don't know if I've seen all 4 of these guys' matches, but I've seen at least 3, and they're always bangers. They're always awesome. I love their match from Wrestle Kingdom this year. I thought it was absolutely the best match of that night. So I'm excited to see them face in the New Japan Cup, and if Finley wins, we might get to see it again later down the line. So I'm pushing Finley on. And then we have Yuya Uemura versus Yoshihashi. I'm gonna push Yuya through because I just feel like I don't know. I don't think they would give Yoshihashi really any momentum, even though it could set up a Bishamon match for the IWGP title if Yoshi took on Hiroki Goto. But I just don't really see it happening. So I'm gonna push Yuya on. A TMDK implosion match. Oiwa versus Zack Sabre Jr. I think it'll be a fun match. It'll have a unique dynamic because both guys are in the same stable. But I'm pushing Zack through. I feel like he is the more established star, and pushing him further in the tournament will have a bigger impact when someone eventually does beat him, and I am going to have someone beat him. Then we have Gabe Kidd going up against Tai Chi. Pretty cut and dry here. I think Gabe Kidd's moving on. They've really been pushing him, like I said, and I don't think Tai Chi is going to be the guy to step in his way. So on this side of the bracket, Finley, Yuya Uemura, Zack Sabre Jr., and Gabe Kidd are all moving on to the quarterfinals. On this side of the bracket, we have Great-O-Khan taking Shota Umino. Like I said earlier, I feel like this is the spot where Shota gets his win back. They're really pushing Shota recently, for better or for worse. So I think that he is going to advance in this tournament and get his win back off of Great-O-Khan. Then we have Callum Newman versus Jeff Cobb. Like I said, this match probably won't happen. It'll probably be Naito. But either way, whether it is Naito or Callum Newman, I do think Jeff Cobb will advance. I think he's been putting in some good performances lately. I've really been liking what I've seen out of Jeff Cobb, and getting him, seeing him advance a little bit further in this tournament would be cool. I did put Shota Umino forward, and I think him beating Jeff Cobb physically is more impressive. But if Naito moved through, that Naito does have more of that pedigree and that prestige. So I could see Naito going up against Shota in the quarterfinals. But I'm pushing Jeff Cobb through. Yeah, baby. Next, we have Drilla Maloney versus TJP. It's weird because I'm pretty sure, and I didn't actually research this beforehand, I should have. I'm pretty sure TJP is in the junior heavyweight division. Now, he was in the New Japan Cup last year, but then he was also in Best of the Super Juniors last year. And at Wrestle Kingdom this year, he was in the four-way ladder match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Championship. So I don't really know what he's doing there. I don't know whether he's in the heavyweight or whether he's in junior heavyweight. Either way, I think Drilla's moving on there because they're gonna be pushing him. And I think they're going to set up a rematch with him versus Shingo Takagi, because I think Shingo is going to beat Boltin Oleg and move on. So in this round, moving on, we have Shota Umino, who's going to be taking on, I said Jeff Cobb. And the more I think about it, the more I don't like the answer. The more I think it'll be Naito. I don't know. Because maybe if he beats Callum and Jeff Cobb, that could set up a tag match between Naito and Takahashi versus Callum Newman and Jeff Cobb in the future. You know what? I'm going to change my decision. I'm going to push Naito to the quarterfinals. So I'm going to say he's going to beat Callum Newman, then beat Jeff Cobb, and face Shota Umino in the quarterfinals. Just changing that right now off the fly. And Drilla Maloney versus Shingo Takagi in the quarterfinals. Now, we're going to go over from the New Japan bracket to my personal bracket. And this is my beautifully crafted bracket of my own that I just whipped up in Google Docs real quick. I have the 2 first-round matches that we've already talked about. So let's talk about quarters, semis, and finals, which, spoiler, I guess, you can see who I have moving on. Everyone who I have moving on is in bold here. So in the first match, Yuya Uemura versus David Finlay. I do have David Finlay moving on. I feel like Yuya would have gotten a good run in this tournament, beating Sanada and Yoshihashi, 2 veterans, but eventually falling to David Finlay. I just feel like there's a more interesting story if Finlay goes into the semifinals. And as you can see, I have him facing Gabe Kidd. I feel like it's a more interesting story because they're both members of the War Dogs. And I would be pushing Gabe Kidd as a babyface up to this point. He can be a babyface when he's facing Ren Narita in the first round. Then sort of just they two baby faces going against each other with him facing Taichi and him facing Zack Sabre Jr. But I think David Finlay should be cruel to Gabe Kidd in this match. Even though they're stablemates and are friends, I think that he should really work over Gabe so Gabe can make the fiery comeback. And as you can see, he moves into the finals to face Shota. Shota has sort of been playing a quasi heel recently, so it'll be nice for the fans to really get behind someone they genuinely love, like Gabe Kidd. And I think David Finlay is the guy to bring that reaction out of him. So I'm pushing him forward. I'm also pushing Gabe Kidd forward, going over Zack Sabre Jr. I didn't notice until I made this bracket that all of my quarterfinal matches are you have someone who has been a top champion in New Japan or someone who is being pushed as a top star, going up against someone who hasn't. So David Finlay, who's been the global champion, going up against Yuya. Zack Sabre Jr., who's been the IWGP champion, going up against Gabe Kidd. Naito, IWGP champion, going up against Shuda. And Takagi going up against Drilla Maloney. I don't know what the benefit is of putting Zack Sabre Jr. over Gabe Kidd, whereas there is all benefit if you put Gabe Kidd over. You get all the plus from that. He's beating a big star, going far in a big tournament. I feel like Gabe would get so much out of beating Zack, and Zack would not get a whole lot out of beating Gabe. So I'm putting Gabe versus Finlay in the semifinals. Shota versus Naito. I sort of explained my thought process on this already. Putting Naito through over Newman and Cobb might set up a tag match down the line, but it also gives Shota a lot of cred if he beats Naito, one of the most legendary figures in modern New Japan history. It'll really give Shota the prestige that you need in a tournament like this when you're in the finals and they go back and say, look at all the people who they beat. Let's see who Shota beat. Well, Shota beat, who the heck did he beat in the first round? Oh, he got a bye in the first round. He beat the Great Okan, he beat Naito, and he went on to face Shingo Takagi in the semifinals, who he eventually beat to get to the finals. I do have Takagi getting his win back over Drilla Maloney. Once again, I feel that it'll be more impressive if Shingo or if Shota beats Shingo than if Drilla beats Shingo again. I feel like they've already sort of given that rub to Drilla a little bit, so now it's time for Shota to get the Takagi rub. So in the semifinals, Gabe Kidd is going off against David Finlay. Like I said, I want Finlay to be super cruel so that when Gabe Kidd makes the comeback and moves on to the finals, it's more impressive. And Shota to beat Shingo Takagi. Big staple match for Shota Umino, similar to him beating Naito. It is Shota versus Gabe in the finals in my mind, and I could see them going either way, but I feel like Shota's had his shot. He's had his shot to be in the main event, and he didn't do it for me. He failed, not only in storyline, failed to win the title, but also in reality, failed to really impress me in any way. Whereas Gabe Kidd, when he's been given these opportunities, he's constantly run with them and shown him to be great. And I think that a Gabe Kidd versus Hiroki Goto match for the IWGP Championship could just be a blow away, insanely great match. So I am going to have Gabe Kidd win this tournament over Shota Umino. And those are my predictions for the 2025 New Japan Cup. I'm super excited to watch it. It starts tomorrow. I'm going to be keeping up with it throughout the time. If it's good, like I said, I'll make a video recapping what I thought of it. I'll probably do that either way, but if it's really good, I'll put it in the Tournamentality series and rank it amongst the other tournaments I have looked at. I want to know your guys' predictions below. Who do you think is going to win this tournament? And what do you think was my worst prediction that I gave in this video? I understand Callum Newman beating Naito is probably the worst one, but I sort of scrapped that and changed that a little bit. So that one's not eligible. But let me know down in the comments what you thought and if you're excited for the New Japan Cup. While you're down there, leave a like, leave a subscribe, all of that. It really does help a new channel like mine to grow. Keep your eyes peeled for more New Japan Cup content coming later this month once the tournament has wrapped up. But with all that being said, I have been Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling. I would like to thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.